How do you respond to the charge that it is banks such as Barclays and others that have got us into this mess? It's a decade and more of irresponsible lending, of not appropriately calibrating risk that has landed everyone in this recession.
I think there's some truth in that, Declan. I think risk was underpriced and therefore and short-term money was available. I mean, I look at it rather simply, that the banks in the UK, and you know, obviously got to look at the States, and we'll say, well, it all started in the States, but look at the UK. The banks that got into trouble either made terrible corporate decisions, as RBS did, or actually were acquirers of building societies. And it's the building societies, starting with Abbey National, what, 2 or 3 years ago, Bradford and Bingley, Northern Rock and Halifax, with the merger of Bank of Scotland. Those are the banks that got into trouble, and I'll tell you why. Because they had huge deposit base, and then they leveraged that to a ridiculous extent. And I think you'll see that Lloyd's, on its own, Barclays, actually didn't do that. I mean, we bought the Woolwich about 6 or 7 years ago. We had at that time 11% of the mortgage market. I think when this crisis started we had 5 or 6, because we couldn't compete with these lunatics who were throwing money at the market. 125% mortgages, self-assessment for people, agents coming in and throwing mortgages at these companies to grow their balance sheet. It was madness.
This is language I've not heard one banker use to talk about other bankers. You use the words ridiculous and lunatics.
Well, I'm a non-exec director, so I'm probably entitled to do that. And I'm actually leaving the board in April. They'd probably fire me if I... Anyway, but I've been an observer of this, and I was an observer on Barclays Bank board. And I think you'll find, and time will tell, that Barclays will come out of this extremely well. Because banks are paid to take risk, so we're going to have bad debts. It's the assessment, it's the assessment of that risk, and you rightly say that actually banks took too much risk and they grew their balance sheet excessively.
Let me quickly speak with you as